Hello everybody, my name is Isaac Herndon, and today I'm going to be giving a speech to try to persuade you why failing isn't really all that bad and how we can try to overcome it and learn from it in our daily lives, especially at work and at school. One quote that I read on Forbes this week that I really enjoyed reading is by Winston Churchill, and it states this: "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." I found this quote super encouraging because it helped me realize that failing isn't going to be the death of me and succeeding isn't going to last forever. So when I go on in life, I just must have the courage to push through both of those things. And I feel like people today could really find encouragement from this quote. Throughout this speech, I want people to know to stop letting failure define them. I feel like in today's culture and society, especially with social media and all the things going on with that, people love to emphasize failures, and we must try to prevent that. Because when we emphasize it, then that's what we focus on, and that's all we care about. Next, we must find a way to overcome it. We must find a way to overcome our failures. If not, then we're going to get stuck and we will never be able to progress forward. Next, we have to understand that failing isn't really all that bad. We can use it as a tool that can help us overcome mistakes that we end up making in the future. Failure, that's the main takeaway. Failure isn't all that bad. So here is the problem. The problem is that people think that failure inherently is negative. Yes, it can be negative, but there can also be a lot of positive too. When you fail, you now know what you did wrong, and you can now prevent that from happening again. You can now move forward and make yourself better. The next thing is to avoid giving up. We must try to prevent people from giving up, because giving up is trying to avoid failing. If you give up, that's a fail itself, but it's an even bigger fail than actually failing. Because when you give up, you don't even try. I feel like a huge problem today is unemployment. And the whole thing with that is people don't want to work because they fear that they may fail in their work. So instead, they'd rather just sit at home and do nothing. We must try to prevent that. We must also try to stop people from quitting. We need to try to get those thoughts out of our heads, those quitting thoughts out of our heads before they even get there. I know that's a really hard thing to do, but I think it's something we must do to prevent failure overcoming us. One statistic that I found by Harvard that was super cool states this. It's a writer named Edmondson's. He states, "Researchers know that there is a 70% chance of failing." So you're telling me that when a researcher is researching, they know that there's a very, very likely chance that they are going to make a mistake and mess up? So why do we as a people fear failing? We should see that and see, because those researchers are still making breakthroughs. They're still doing great things, but they keep pushing through and getting better each time they make a mistake. And we as a people need to do the same thing. One fact that I found on Lending Tree by Devin states that 20.8% of the private sector businesses fail within a year. 20%. But you know what that means? That means that 80% doesn't fail. They continue to keep pushing forward and get better. And you know what? Within the first year, I bet after the first year, a lot of those businesses that failed at first, they didn't stay down. They didn't stay sleeping. They continue to get better and grow. If one of those businesses stops and does nothing, they're going to lose tons of money, and I don't think any business wants to do that. Most businesses want to succeed, and I think that's their biggest goal, is succeeding, and I think that's our biggest goal as well. We must try to push forward and succeed in our day-to-day lives. One cool example that I found by Kitman at Lifehack is this: J.K. Rowling. She is a huge example of failure. And you may think, J.K. Rowling, isn't she one of the most successful authors of all times? Yes, she is, but she wasn't at first. At first, she was depressed. She was living on welfare, divorced. The first time she tried to get Harry Potter published, you know what happens? The publishers denied her. They didn't let her continue forward. But did that stop her? No. That's the encouragement for there. That's what shows us that failure isn't terrible. If failure was terrible, she would have stopped and she wouldn't have kept going. But you know what she did? She kept pushing forward, and now she's one of the greatest authors of all time. That's a great inspiration for me. So here's the solution. We must accept failure in order to move on and reach our goals and aspirations. If we don't accept failure, that means we're letting it conquer us and get the best of us. That means we're letting it be negative in our thoughts. We can't let that happen. We must see failure as a positive thing in order to get better and move forward. Here's another solution that I like to look at. Accept the fact that you failed. Accept that you messed up. If you accept failure, then you know what you did wrong, and you can then fix that mistake. One quote that I found by Fast Company, Tracy at Fast Company, she stated this: if you fail 15% of the time, you will enhance your learning. So every single time you fail and mess up, you are actually getting smarter and getting better. You are pushing forward. This is another reason to embrace failure. It is making you better slowly each time you fail. You continue to better yourself every single time. Here are a few steps that I found on Forbes. Tony from Forbes says this. Here's some steps. First, find the root of your failure. Pinpoint that exact mistake that you made. That way you never make it ever again. That way you most likely won't fail in this particular area again because you know what you did wrong. Next, take a break. If failure has happened to you consistently, stop, wait a minute, take a deep breath, and then go reach for your goals later on. You don't have to try to do everything at once. Take your time to accomplish your goals. Next, do not lower your ambitions. If you lower your ambitions, you will never reach your true potential. You do not want to do that. Please do not lower your ambitions. Next, seek help. For me, when I was first getting out of high school, I didn't know how to do a lot of things. I didn't know how to pay bills. I didn't know how to pay rent, anything like that. So you know what I did? I reached out to my family and they helped me. Instead of failing and doing nothing, I sought help and they helped me in those fails. Because I was failing. It's not like I wasn't failing, I was. And I was seeking help from people who had already done it before. And so they helped me prevent those failures from happening again. Next, own your mistake. If you don't own your mistake, then you're basically not acknowledging that you messed up. You must acknowledge that you failed in order to not fail again. So here's the thing. People will tell you to quit, but please hear me out. Don't. Your competition doesn't want you to get better. They don't want you to succeed. They want you to fail and then stop working. But you can't do that. You must push forward and you must reach your goals. If you use these tips, I think that in the future, you won't have problems with failure again. I think in the future, you will embrace failure and become a better person because of it. So here's the main thing that I want you to focus on in the future. Confront it. Confront your failure at its core and continue to learn from all the mistakes that you continue to make. Because those mistakes you make, you can end up using them later on and you can improve from them. So in conclusion, we must accept the fact that we all mess up. We're human. It's human nature. Nobody's perfect. We're all going to make mistakes and we're all going to mess up. But we cannot be fearful of that failure. And we have to realize that failure, yes, we failed. Yes, it's bad and it stinks. But now it's good because we know how to fix that problem. We know how to push forward and achieve the goal that we were setting out to make in the first place. So here's my call to action for all of you people out there. Keep going. Keep pushing forward. Don't give up. Realize that failure is a good thing. When you mess up, you get better. You will always improve yourself. So thank y'all all for listening to my speech, and I hope y'all all have a great week.